Robert Downey Jr. has more than earned his street cred as one of the world's highest paid and, quite frankly, adored actors. However, the Iron Man star battled multiple personal demons before turning his life around along the way. This is the tragic real-life story of Robert Downey Jr. In Robert Downey Jr.'s own words, he had an interesting childhood. But as you delve further into his past, you find that's quite the understatement. Both of his artistic parents, who divorced when he was 13, struggled with drug and alcohol addiction and led lifestyles that meant traveling for work and wild parties. Naturally, Downey caught the acting bug at a young age. However, he never stayed in one place for too long during his youth, living in New York City, London, and Santa Monica. Downey also infamously had his first taste of marijuana when he was just 6 or 7. As his dad, Robert Downey Sr. later admitted to The Guardian, "I passed him a joint, and suddenly I knew I had made a terrible, stupid mistake by giving a little kid a toke of grass just to be funny." For his part, RDJ once explained that the father-son duo used drugs to bond, saying in an interview for the New Breed book, "It was like him trying to express his love for me in the only way he knew how." 1987 was an exciting year for Robert Downey Jr., who nabbed his breakout role in the movie Less Than Zero. The young actor's vulnerable portrayal of drug addict Julian Wells, whose addiction spirals amid an attempt to get sober, captivated audiences. Unfortunately, the role proved to be too much to handle, and Downey's life began to imitate his art. By the time the drama was released, Downey was 22, and his lifelong battle with addiction began to get worse. He later explained to The Guardian, "Until that movie, I took my drugs after work and on the weekends. Maybe I'd turn up hungover on the set, but no more so than the stuntman." However, Downey went on to say that this changed while filming Less Than Zero, telling an interviewer, "The character was an exaggeration of myself. Then things changed, and in some ways, I became an exaggeration of the character. That lasted far longer than it needed to last." Downey's downward spiral into addiction would unfortunately become infamous over the next 15 years, landing him not only in rehab but also behind bars. By his early 30s, Robert Downey Jr.'s drug addiction had led him down a dangerous path, resulting in his June 1996 arrest. According to UPI, the actor was pulled over for speeding in Malibu, with authorities claiming he'd been driving erratically and appeared to be under the influence of alcohol. After searching Downey's pickup truck, the authorities found black tar heroin, crack and powdered cocaine, as well as an unloaded .357 Magnum handgun. Downey later posted bail but was charged with felony counts of drug possession, along with misdemeanor charges for DUI and possession of a concealed weapon. The following month, Downey was infamously found asleep amid a drug stupor in his neighbor's child's empty bed, in what became known as, quote, the Goldilocks incident. Luckily, his neighbors decided not to press trespassing charges, but he was court-ordered to attend rehab. He escaped after 2 days, hitchhiked to a friend's house, and was taken to jail for violating the order hours later, before finding himself sent off to another rehab center. Downey was an Oscar-nominated actor for Chaplin by this time in his career, but that didn't mean Judge Lawrence Mira let him off the hook when he pleaded no contest to his initial charges. That November, Downey was sentenced to an additional 6 months of live-in rehabilitation, with periodic drug tests and 3 years of probation. By the time Robert Downey Jr. was accused of skipping a drug test in late 1997, Judge Lawrence Mira had grown frustrated and sentenced the actor to 180 days at the Los Angeles County Jail for violating probation. Downey was moved to solitary confinement after getting into a fight with a few inmates, and was eventually released over 2 months early to attend another 120 days in rehab. Unfortunately, he was still battling addiction in mid-1999. And after missing more court-ordered drug tests, was thrown back into the legal system. Downey requested remaining in the county's rehab program at his hearing that August, but his statement garnered little sympathy from the judge, who told Downey that rehabilitation had not worked in his case. Judge Mira handed down the maximum sentence of 3 years in state prison.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
When Robert Downey Jr.'s mother, Elsie, passed away in September 2014, her death understandably hit the actor hard, particularly considering they'd grown very close while he was in prison. Downey has long credited his wife, Susan, for aiding him in his journey towards sobriety. However, Elsie's most special gift to her son may have been further inspiring him to kick his addiction for good in 2003. A year after Elsie's passing, Governor Jerry Brown pardoned Downey's 1996 drug conviction. In 2013, Robert Downey Jr. learned once again that the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree when his eldest son, then 20-year-old Indio Downey, attended a homeopathic treatment facility after taking prescription pain medication. At the time, Indio's mother, Deborah Falconer, told the National Enquirer he was not addicted, he was taking 1 pill a day. However, the issue soon came to haunt Indio when he was arrested for possession of cocaine and drug paraphernalia, which is a felony, in West Hollywood the following year. In a statement to CNN, Robert's representative said in part, Unfortunately, there's a genetic component to addiction, and Indio has likely inherited it. We're all determined to rally behind him. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, this alleged link between addiction and genetics does have some validity to it, as researchers estimate that genetics contributes 42 to 79% of the risk for cocaine use and dependence. By 2016, Indio's drug charges were dismissed after he completed a 20-month rehab program. 3 years later, Falconer told Radar Online that Robert had helped their son in his recovery, hopefully breaking the cycle of addiction that has sadly plagued the Downey family for generations. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please call the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration's 24/7 national helpline at 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357.